I just decided to whip up a batch of my lemon sugar cookies, and I thought y'all might want to watch me, so we're just going to wing this video. This should be very interesting. I'll put the recipe in the description down below so you can follow along. We start off with 2 sticks of butter that's at room temperature, so they've been sitting out for about 30 minutes, and 200 grams of sugar, which I think is about a cup. I'll pin that down before I put that in the recipe. I weigh all my ingredients when I'm baking with just this little scale. This is invaluable because it's really hard to be precise when you're doing, because cups are different, believe it or not. Every cup that I have, I've tested them and they hold a different amount. But anyway, we're going to put the butter and the sugar in the stand mixer, and we are going to whip it until it is light and fluffy. And light means a lighter color, like a whitish color. So let me get the butter in here. And I'm going to turn the butter on for just a minute and let it smooth that out some before I put the sugar in. Okay, let's dump the sugar in now. 200 grams of sugar. And also, since these are lemon sugar cookies, what I put in them is the zest of 1 lemon. And this is a large lemon, but I like them really lemony. So I'm going to zest this real quick and put that in with the sugar and the butter. There's a lot of different kind of zesters. This is just one I've picked up. And you just want the outer part of the rind. Don't dig into it. Just skim it across the top. And I'm actually going to use the rest of the lemon for the icing that we'll make next. I'll juice it and put the juice in there. Okay, see, that's pretty much all the zest. And the recipe calls for a tablespoon. And I find that pretty much 1 lemon is just about a good tablespoon. Okay, so we're going to put this in the mixer with the butter and the sugar. And we're going to let that spin for about 5 minutes, maybe 4. I'm going to stop about halfway and scrape everything down. Just scrape it off the edge down into the center, and make sure you get down in the bottom of the bowl. Sometimes mine gets stuck down in there. And turn it back on for a little while. And that looks nice. It's a very light color and it's fluffy. So the sugar is incorporated really well. And you can see the lemon zest is incorporated in there as well. So we're going to scrape this down and go on to the next step. Okay, the next step is to combine our egg, which is also at room temperature, with our flavorings. So just crack your egg into your bowl. This recipe calls for a half a tablespoon of vanilla and a half a tablespoon of almond flavoring. So I'm going to put that in with the egg. And we're going to stir this up, speed this up a little bit, get everything in there. Then going to pour this in here and scrape the bowl pretty well. Put that down in there. There we go. And scrape the spatula as well. Okay. Now you don't want to go real fast once you get the egg in there, and you just want to go until it gets mixed in good, because it like goes through this point where it will mix and then it separates again. So just keep watching it. Okay, that was mixed really well, so I'm going to scrape it down again, get everything off the beater, get it down in there. Scrape down the sides all the way to the bottom of the bowl. And scrape off the spatula. Okay, now let's prepare our flour mixture. Now the flour is 430 grams, and I've already got that pre-measured out. To this, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 1 level teaspoon right in the bag. And 2 teaspoons of salt. If you don't like the salt, you can leave it out. It doesn't really have a purpose baking wise. I just like with the lemon, the salt really kind of brings that flavor out. Okay, close the bag. You really should sift this together, but I'm not much of a sifter because sifting is messy. So I just put it in the bag and shake it up really, really good. Now, we're going to add this to the mix all at one time. Okay, I just dumped all the flour in at one time, and then I'm going to put my little shield on because it tends to go everywhere. And I'm going to pulse it a couple of times. And once it starts getting a little bit incorporated, we're not going to do this long. Take the shield off. Now we have that good. And I'm going to scrape my edges down. I'm just going to stir it until it makes one ball. And that's going to be good there. Then we're going to take this all out, and I'm going to knead it a few times to get it all nice and smooth. Next, you're just going to get this thing out of here. Okay, what we want to do now is we want to take our dough and we're going to break it in half, give or take. And I have 2 pieces of cling wrap here, of some sort. You can use wax paper if you want to. The cling wrap keeps it fresher. What you want to do is you want to flatten it out some. We're fixing to refrigerate it for just a little while, and then we're going to roll it out and cut it. And if you just refrigerate it in the big ball, it will be impossible to roll out. So flatten it out pretty flat, and then wrap it up nice and tight, just like this. Fold this up. Make sure you get it sealed on the sides, okay? And I'm going to do this to the other ball, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator for, a couple of hours, and then we'll come back and roll it out and cut it out and cook them, okay? So, into the fridge, and then we'll be right back. Okay, our dough that we had chilling, wrapped up, it's chilled, so we're ready to roll it out. Now, I like to roll mine between 2 pieces of parchment paper, but you can roll it out however you want to. I just use the seal pat down because it keeps the parchment paper from sliding around. So let's unroll our dough. Let's get it unwrapped here. I usually chill mine for a little bit longer, but this is going to be fine. So put it on here, we're through with that, and cover it up. Now, I like to roll mine 1/4 inch thick for these little dipper cookies. So I have my 1/4 inch guides on here, and we're just going to roll it out until it's 1/4 inch thick, just back and forth. And you can see how firm it is since it's chilled. If you had put this in the refrigerator as a big ball, it would, by the time you got it rolled back out, you'd have to chill it again. So press it out pretty thin before you ever put it in the fridge. Roll it this way and that way, this way, and that way, and then separate it. I'm going to flip it over. Getting it all flat there. Right, now, what I like to do, okay, since that was on top, I'm going to separate that and then very carefully flip it back over again and smooth this side out. Make sure you don't have, because sometimes that parchment paper leaves creases in it. And I like mine really smooth since you're not going to decorate them. Now, what I like to do next is take a little bit of sugar and just sprinkle it right on top. That kind of gives it a little crunch. Just sprinkle it around and then spread it. Just get it all smooth on there, okay? This is the cookie cutter that I like to use for the dippers because they make a really nice dipping shape. And I got this one off of Etsy. I'll put a link to the shop down below. It's really nice. It's pretty deep. I'm sure it was made with one of those 3D printer things. So we are just going to be pressing the cookie and putting it on a parchment lined pan. I have my oven preheating to 375. So just find a place, press it down. I like it when the cookie comes up in the cookie cutter because I can transfer it, but it didn't this time. So carefully lay it down on the pan. Okay, I'm going to cut the rest of this out and line them up on our pan. Okay, so I got the first round of cutting done, and this is the dough that's left over. So I'm going to knead it all back together gently. You don't want to knead too often because the more you knead the dough, the tougher it gets. So I'm going to softly knead it all back together, roll it out. I'm going to sprinkle some sugar on it and cut the rest of this. I don't like to go more than 3 times, so whatever's left over after the third cutting, I just throw that out or make yourself some cookies. But it tends to kind of spread or whatever. So I'm going to finish these up. Now, before I put these in the oven, I'm going to put them in the freezer for about 5 minutes because working with the dough has warmed it back up. So I'm going to pop it in the freezer for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to put it in a 375 oven for about 13 minutes. Okay? That depends on how brown you want your cookies. Sometimes I like the edges, you know, fairly brownish. Sometimes I don't. So we're going to put it in the oven for 13 minutes and then we'll pull them out and we'll see what it looks like with our dip. Okay, here we are back and they are on the cooling rack. They've been cool for a little while. And I wound up leaving these for about 15 minutes. Let me show you the bottom. You see how the bottom is just a slight golden brown right on the edges? That's how I like them. You can, you know, get them, some of them will be a little bit browner. That one is, my oven doesn't heat exceptionally evenly, but I don't think any of them do. Just remember that a minute or two makes a big difference. So don't look at it and think, oh, they're not ready yet, and then run off and do something. Because a minute or two can totally go from one extreme to the next. Now, once you get them cooked, they're just ready to dip in the icing, just like this. Get you a little bit and chow down. They're delicious. I love to dress up the icing. I made little labels that say what flavor they are because I also make some without the lemon juice, just with water and a little extra almond. So I put a little label on this. You can also take this icing if you want to and drop like one little drop of frosting in there and then take a toothpick and swirl it around if you want to, and you can even use more than one color and it'll give you a little swirl. You can stir it in completely and that will color it. I also like to put some sprinkles on it sometimes right before I serve it. If you put sprinkles or colored sugar on it way ahead of time, now it will color up the icing. It will kind of melt into the icing, so be aware of that. And then if I'm going, I love to just take a little cello bag and you can put a few cookies down in the bag like this and tie it with a cute little bow, and that's a little snacky gift to go. So all kinds of ideas. I also have a recipe for cookies that are not lemony, they're just the almond vanilla, so I'll be doing those next. So keep in mind there's one video for the cookies, there's one video for the frosting. You put them together and you have this. Yay! Alright, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.